Hello guys, greetings from Placements Key. I welcome you all to the lecture series on TCS NQT. I'll be covering the exact questions that were asked on October 26th, 2020, and then it's slot 1. In the first part, I've already covered questions from 1 to 12. Now I'll be continuing from question number 13. Please watch the previous lecture if you've not watched it yet. Read the following information carefully and answer the given questions. A public charitable trust desires to select a homeopathy doctor for its hospital in a rural area based on the following criteria. Okay. The candidate must be holding this degree with minimum 60% marks, and then the second one is with respect to the experience, and then the third one is with respect to the knowledge of the local language. And then in case the applicant who satisfies all the other criteria except one, that is if he satisfies the second and third conditions but not the first, then we have an additional condition to be checked, which is if he has minimum 50% marks at BHMS and completed MD with 55%, then his case would be referred to the chief medical officer. And then the fifth condition is for what? He should have satisfied all the other conditions except the second condition, that is he should have satisfied the first and the third but not second. Then this additional condition would be checked. Okay. And then similarly this sixth is for what? The candidate should have satisfied all the other conditions, that is 1 and 2 but not 3. Then this additional condition would be checked for, right? This is how we'll have to approach the questions. Let's see, let's read the case here. Jaswinder has completed BHMS with a minimum of 52% marks. Okay, if we look at it, he's not satisfied the very first condition itself, right? Now, but he has participated for 6 years in a village. Okay, now if you look at it, he has 5 years of experience of practice in rural area. Yes, village 6 years, therefore he is satisfying this condition. And then he has a good knowledge of Hindi as well as the local language. If you look at the third condition, he has a good language of the local language, therefore the third condition is also satisfied. So clearly he has not satisfied the first but satisfied the second and third. So we'll have to check for the additional condition of what, which is the fourth condition, right? He has satisfied second and third but not the first condition, right? Okay, so what is additional condition here? He should have got minimum 50% marks in BHMS. Yes, he has got 50% marks because he has got 52% marks, right? So this is clear. And now he should have also completed MD with 55% marks, but that information is not given here, right? Whether he has completed MD or not. Therefore this fourth condition is the additional condition is not satisfied, therefore the candidate would not be selected, right? Option C is the right answer. Okay, this question number 14 is also very similar to that. We have a few conditions. The following are the criteria of recruitment for the post of technical assistant at an organization. The candidates must have completed BTech. Okay, this is with respect to degree. Okay, and then the second one is with respect to the bond, whether or not he's willing to sign a bond for 2 years. And then the third one is what? The candidate should have got more than 85% marks in the written test and more than 70% marks in the personal interview. And then he must also be willing to relocate to the head office, which is located at New Delhi. And then, however, if the candidate fulfills all the above criteria except the second condition, except B, that is he should have satisfied A, C as well as D, but he has at least 2 years of work as technical consultant, then his case would be referred to the general manager. Similarly, if he satisfies all the conditions except C, that is he should have satisfied A, B and then D, these 3 conditions but not the third condition C, then we'll have an additional check, which is he should have completed MTech in electrical engineering, and then his case would be referred to the head of operations. Okay, so these are the set of conditions that we are supposed to check. Let's look at the case here. Preksha, she has completed BTech and MTech in electrical engineering with 82% marks in both the examinations. Okay, therefore the first condition is satisfied. She's completed BTech with 82%. Okay. Then she has secured 72% marks in the personal interview and 88% marks in the written test. Let's check it. She has got 88% marks in the written test, the third condition, and then she's got 72% marks in the personal interview. Yes, she's cleared the third condition as well. Okay. Now she's willing to relocate to the head office at New Delhi. Okay, so the condition D is also satisfied. Then she is willing to execute a bond of not leaving the job for 1 year. We know that she should be willing to execute a bond for at least 2 years, but she is ready to sign a bond only for 1 year. Therefore, the second condition B is not satisfied. We know that if A, C, D are satisfied but not B, then we have this additional check. What is that? She should have got at least 2 years of work experience as technical consultant. Now let's see. She's got 3 years of work experience as technical consultant. Therefore, uh, condition E is satisfied. Therefore, her case would be referred to the general manager, which is option D. Okay, let's move on to this question, which is data sufficiency based question. Okay, now how do we approach such questions? We'll see whether the question can be answered from one alone, and then we'll see if it can be answered by the second statement alone, and then we'll combine both the statements. Okay, this should be the sequence of approach. Let's look at the question. What amount would Mr. Anuj need to pay to the taxi company for traveling a distance of 121 kilometers? Okay, so Mr. Anuj has hired a taxi and then he has traveled for 121 kilometers. We are supposed to find how much amount will he have to pay to the taxi company. Okay. Now let's look at the first statement alone. The taxi company charges 11 rupees per kilometer. Okay, so the charge is given. It is 11 rupees per kilometer, and if not that, they'll also charge. I mean, there is also fixed charge that's applicable on all the journeys. So this can be considered as a variable charge, which depends on the number of kilometers, and then there is also fixed charge that is charged by the company. Now with this, can we really find how much would he be charged for traveling 121 kilometers? Not really. We can find the variable charge because we can do 121 into 11. We can find the variable charge, but the fixed charge is not given. Therefore, we can't exactly find as to how much would he be charged. Therefore, the statement 1 alone is not sufficient. Let's look at the statement 2 alone now. What does statement 2 alone say? It says that the company charged rupees 835 in all, which included the fixed charge for a journey of 35 kilometers. So 835 is the total charge, okay, which includes fixed charge and also the variable charge. Okay, variable charge for 35 kilometers. Okay. Now if we look at it, still we are not sure of the fixed charge here, right? We know the total charge is 835, which is equal to fixed charge, plus let's say the variable charge is, let's say, rupees C per kilometer. So we only know that the 835 is equal to F plus 35 into C. Okay, for each kilometer if it is C, for 35 kilometers it is 35C. So again we have two variables, right? The fixed charge as well as the variable charge per kilometer. Therefore the second statement alone even can't be sufficient to answer the given question. Now what is the next approach? What is the next step? We'll have to combine both the statements. Let's combine both the statements. Okay, we know that the variable charge is 11 per kilometer, and then we know that the total charge is 835 for 35 kilometers. So we know that if 35 kilometers are traveled, then what is the total variable charge? It is 35 into 11, which is 385 rupees. Okay, so we know variable charge. We are not sure of the fixed charge yet, but we know that the total charge is 835. So 835 is equal to the variable charge 385 plus fixed charge on combining both the statements. So what is the value of, so you get fixed charge, right? You get fixed charge which is so much, 835 minus 385, whatever the value is. So we got the fixed charge and we also got the variable charge, which is what, 11 per kilometer, which is given in the first statement. Therefore we've got these two, so we can easily find how much would he be charged for traveling 121 kilometers, right? The fixed charge plus 11 into 121 would give you the amount that he would be charged for. right? So therefore, on combining both the statements, we were able to answer the question, but not individually, right? Therefore, what is the right answer? Both the statements 1 and 2 together are necessary to answer the question. Consider the Venn diagrams given below. The number in the Venn diagram indicates the number of persons who can speak various languages in a city. Okay. Now, it is the diagram is drawn after surveying 200 persons. 200 persons, but the total population is 15,000. So they are basically doing sampling. Out of 15,000, they have randomly chosen 200 people and they are conducting the survey, right? Now, how many people can be expected to speak just one language? Just one language. So which region represents just one language? The region which is not common to any of those. So 42, 38 and 46. These three are independent of each other, right? Therefore, this region represents the number of people who speak just one language. So how much is it? It is 42 plus 46 plus 38. So we know 42 plus 38 is 80, 80 plus 46 is 126. So 126 out of 200 people, they speak just one language. So let's see what is the percentage. So 0, 0 cancel. So we get it as 63%. Therefore, 63% of the total 200 people who are surveyed, they speak just one language. So since it's sampling, we'll assume that the same percentage more or less would be replicated across the entire population. Therefore, how many people can be expected to speak just one language out of the total population 15,000? It is 63% of 15,000, right? If you just solve for this, we'll get the answer. So how much is it? 60% plus 3%. 60% is 60% of 15,000 is 9,000 plus 3%. We know 1% is 150, so 3% would be 450. So what is the answer? It is 9,450. Okay. Now, luckily, this we have one more question on the same set. Now, what are we supposed to find? How many people can be expected to speak at least two languages? So, which region represents at least two? So, this entire region, isn't it? This entire region. So, specifically if we look at it, 34, 20, and 12, they are for they speak exactly two languages. Okay. Now, all the three languages is 8, this common region which is common to all the three languages. Therefore, exactly 2 is 34 plus 20 plus 12 and all the 3 is 8, because we are told at least 2, right? At least 2 is what? Greater than or equal to 2. So equal to 2 is this and then greater than 2 is this. So let's add all of this. How much do we get? 12 plus 8 is 20, 20 plus 20, 40 plus 20, 34 is 74. So 74 out of total 200 speak at least two languages. So what is the percentage? 74 by 200 into 100. So we get it as 37%. So therefore 37% out of 200 persons surveyed, they speak at least two languages. So we'll assume that the same results may be replicated across the entire population. Therefore 37% of 15,000 are expected to speak at least two languages. So just simplify this. So 37 into 150. So what do we get? 15 threes, 4,500, and then we have 7 into 150, we get it as 1050. So we get the answer as 5550, 5,550, which is not there in any options. Okay, so you can mark any of the given options and you should be awarded marks for that. Okay, the exact answer is 5550. Given below is a question followed by two statements. Again, it is data sufficiency based question. As told earlier, first approach the statement 1 alone and then the second statement alone, and then if you're not able to answer the given question, only then combine both the statements. Let's look at what are we supposed to find. Is the expression B greater than E correct? B greater than E. Is B greater than E is what we are supposed to find. Now let's look at the first statement. B is equal to C greater than D greater than F is equal to M. Clearly, if you look at this, you don't even have E mentioned here. Therefore, we can't really find as to whether B is greater than E or lesser than E or equal to E. Therefore, the first statement alone is insufficient. Let's look at the second statement alone. H is equal to M greater than T greater than E is equal to P. Again, if you look at it, there is no mention about B in this second statement, right? We only have information about E but not about B. Therefore, we can't really find whether the expression B is greater than E correct or not. So statement 2 alone is also insufficient. Now what do we do? If 1 alone, 2 alone is not sufficient, we'll try combining both the statements. Let's combine both the statements. What can we do? We know the H is equal to M greater than T greater than E is equal to P. Therefore, we can try to write this in the first statement itself. Okay, so M is equal to H, which is greater than T greater than E is equal to P. So clearly, if you look at this, we can easily answer that B is greater than E, because B is equal to C. B is greater than B is greater than D greater than F, which is greater than T, which is greater than E. Therefore, clearly B is greater than E. Therefore, the expression whether it's B is greater than E, which is correct or not, can be answered by combining both the statements. So option A is the right answer. Two statements are given followed by three conclusions, so on and so forth. So it's syllogisms based question. You can solve these type of questions in different methods, but I'm sticking to Venn diagrams based method. No cylinder is drum, that is there is nothing common between cylinder and drum. This is cylinder and then this is drum. Okay, there is nothing common between cylinder and drum. This is fine. Now all balls are cylinders, that is the entire balls, that one has to be within cylinders. All balls, that is balls is sharing everything that it has with the cylinder, right? This is how it is. Okay, now this is also drawn. Now let's look at the conclusions. No drum is a cylinder, definitely, because we know that no cylinder is a drum. This also means that no drum is a cylinder, right? Therefore, the conclusion one is definitely true. Let's look at the second one, which is some cylinders are balls. Yes, clearly, since all balls are cylinders, the balls are sharing everything that they have with the cylinder. Therefore, some part of cylinder is definitely balls, right? Some part of cylinder is definitely balls. So the conclusion 2 is also definitely true. Now, no ball is a drum. Clearly, no cylinder. We know that there is nothing common between cylinder and drum, and we know balls is a part of cylinder. Therefore, balls also has nothing to share with drums. Therefore, the third conclusion is also definitely correct. Therefore, all the conclusions follow. Therefore, option C is the right answer. Okay, thank you guys. Let's meet in the next lecture.